take care of the agenda tonight. A number of us have commitments right at 5, so we'll be moving through the agenda fairly quickly. But I appreciate you all being here for our Tuesday, March 17th meeting of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. The next matter on our agenda is actually to observe a moment of silence to commemorate the passing of General Manager of Recology, Del Norte, Tommy Sparrow. This occurred shortly after our last regular meeting, and his presence will certainly be missed, and he did a lot for this community, as you all know. So, especially given the unique relationship between Mr. Sparrow and this organization, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, the next matter actually is not on the agenda, but Mr. Gitlin had an announcement. Mr. Gitlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have it on our agenda because it's not a public matter, but we are going to do a beach cleanup Saturday, March 28th, and we are looking for volunteers to help us clean up Department of Fish and Wildlife properties that have been fouled over the years by illegal camping, and we're looking for volunteers who are willing to help us clean up. Not a lot, but enough of a nuisance of a property. So this is be Saturday between 8 a.m. and 1 o'clock. More volunteers, less time. Dress covered pants, covered arms, and if you have some gloves, that'd be great. We'll have extras, of course, and a rake if you have one, that'd be great. And we'll clean up this area, which is a beautiful part of the coast. It's at 101 South, just across from Sand Mine Road, and you'll see the dumpster put out there and sponsored by Department of Fish and Wildlife, Recology, Hambros, the Triplicate, KPOD, and KCRE FM, and lots of other volunteers. So thank you for including us in your plans for that day.
Thank you, Mr. Gitlin. Actually, it's a good segue. We're going to move right into the public comment period of our agenda. Any member of the public may address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off the agenda. After receiving recognition from myself, please give your name and address for the record, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. So is there any public comment this afternoon? Sir.
Mr. Hawley, I have a question. I've asked this question in the past, and today...
Who are you, by the way?
My name's Richard Miles. I'm a city and county resident.
Thank you, Mr. Miles.
I have a question, and I've asked this question in the past. The authority owns some property at the transfer station. It's a sizable acreage, and it's not being used. I've asked, and to date I have not been given an answer. How much is it worth? You all voted to get it appraised. You haven't appraised it yet. I want to know why. Is it your do-nothing attitude that you've had for the last 3 years? I'd like to know. Secondly, I want to explain something else to you. It's kind of about, and I'm talking as a private citizen on this. Another example of this body not getting off its duff and sitting there and not doing nothing is that for the last 2 years, you've had an acting director. And Ted Ward has done a miracle by spinning about 8 plates at the same time without breaking them. It's about time you people hire a director. And you're not doing it. You're not even searching for a director. And I think it's time the public be given an answer why you're not looking for a director. And I want to say why this is important. Not too long ago, your task force gave the county a document. In that public document that went to the state, there's an education element. I'm sorry, but you're not, this authority is not doing a lot for education. How do you expect...
Would you wrap up, please?
Yeah, I'm wrapping it up.
Thank you.
How do you expect to meet your zero waste goal?
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Other public comments? Yes.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Elizabeth Henry, and I reside in the county. I have some brief comments of concern. Today's agenda includes a discussion and possible action regarding the authority's Code of Ethics and Conduct. It's an admirable document that sets high standards for this board. Within its 18 points, the public's role is affirmed and protected as important to the conduct of authority business. The document ends with a statement of commitment which each board member signs, agreeing to a model of behavior which includes avoid and discourage conduct which is divisive or harmful to the best interests of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority. In my opinion, I'm sorry to point this out, Commissioner Gitlin, I feel that you've ignored this guideline when dealing with the public in these chambers or when writing opinion pieces for the triplicate. Several months ago, you dismissed those present at a meeting as representing only their personal opinions, not those of the public, thus devaluing their opinion. More recently, in the March 7th, 2015 triplicate, you used a farewell tribute to your friend Tommy Sparrow to make two self-serving and inaccurate statements about those of us who have participated in solid waste issues. In the first comment, you claim not to be surprised at the intensity of opposition to save folks money. I have been attending authority board meetings since 2013, have never heard anyone support that position. The opposition has been to suggestions that money could be saved by privatization, elimination of personnel, which proved to be untrue in fiscal year 2013, or that the authority has become an agent of social change because of the strong emphasis on educating the public and continued development of recycling programs. The second comment states, lots of mistrust was spread about during our monthly Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority meetings. The implication is that the words and action of the public can't be trusted. In my opinion, the real mistrust is spread when statements alleging that 25% or more savings to the consumer is possible with no job loss. No facts or figures have ever been presented to back up the 25% savings claim in the years you, Commissioner Gitlin, have been on this board, yet you continue to make it. As the current rate sheet in today's package shows, Del Norte transfer stations continue to have the lowest rates in the region, including those in Curry County, Oregon. Finally, it's my hope that the respect and civility toward public and staff encouraged by the Code of Ethics will be a reality in this chamber. The primary concern of this board has to be the public interest and working for the common good of the people of Del Norte County. I'm done. I'd just like to show the TV audience that there's information in the packet that shows this is Del Norte's cost, and here's the highest, which is Oric in Humboldt County. So
Thank you for your comments. Yes.
I'm Dale Watson, 1205 Dundas Road in Crescent City. I'd like to comment on Ted's letter to the Water Pollution Control Board in Santa Rosa. Way to go, Ted. That was good. I would also hope that our
Sir,
legislative
could you
representatives...
put the mic a little closer to your mouth so everybody can hear? Thank you.
Oh, I would also hope that our legislative representatives in Sacramento might get a copy of that, and it might be accompanied by a resolution of this board to show that everybody's behind Ted. Recently, in the last few months, we've been getting, or some of us have been getting letters from people, charities to whom we contribute, and those letters always thank us. And they say, this certifies that there were no goods or services offered in preparation or in thanks for this, for your contributions. And the Water Quality Control Board could very easily say that, it would be true, and they don't, and they never say thank you. So I would hope that we keep on working this way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Any other public comments this afternoon? Yes, sir.
Hi, Craig Strong, county resident. I'm just briefly seconding Richard Miles' concern and kind of surprised that there is absolutely nothing about soliciting a new director or no talk of it. You must be aware that the Solid Waste Authority is operating at limited capacity for lack of directing personnel. I mean, Ted is doing a wonderful job, but things are not getting done. And I'm kind of wondering, what is this board doing if not a very essential, important piece of the work is filling that position? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comments? Okay, seeing no further comments, we're going to go ahead and bring this back and go on to our open session items. Under the consent agenda, we have approval of the minutes of Wednesday, February 11th, approval of the minutes from Wednesday, February 24th, acknowledgement and filing a letter sent to North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board, approval of budget transfer in the amount of $32,930.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
motion to approve. I'd like to pull for discussion 1.4, approve budget transfer of $32,930
Okay.
from Mr. Ward.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
For items 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. Is there any public comment on items 1.1, 1.2, 1.3? Okay, seeing no other public comment, we'll go ahead and bring this back. Any further discussion on those items? Okay, would you please poll the vote?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So we'll open up 1.4 for discussion, approval of budget transfer in the amount of $32,930. Mr. Gitlin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I pulled this because in the interest of transparency, the public has a right to know where the money is going and why it's going in a certain area. So Ted, I'm going to defer to you for an explanation of this transfer, $32,930, a sizable amount.
Right. This is based on projections in terms of how our expenditures are going on each of those lines. And so each of those lines we're looking to be short in the coming months, so the money was transferred into those lines.
Why is that? Why is there a shortage?
Part-time temporary positions have to do with we need staff to backfill. For instance, one of our refuse site attendants has a multiple month medical issue. So they're out, not available, and that's one of our regular full-time folks. So we need to backfill that position with part-time.
So it's unanticipated people who can't be in their jobs for various sundry reasons, and you need that shortage. Okay, I just wanted
That's
the
right.
public to get a clarity of why this money is being transferred and for what reason, and thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any technical questions from the board? Okay, any public comment on this matter? Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve budget transfer in the amount of $32,930. That's consent agenda item 1.4. And no further discussion? Any further discussion? Would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gitlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Gastineau.
Yes.
Chairman Hawley.
Yes. Thank you. So, moving on to discussion and action items. We have the landfill post-closure, item 2.1. Ted?
This is great news. In
Okay.
that, the Regional Water Quality Control Board accepted our application for a notice of termination of stormwater monitoring at the Crescent City landfill. This will save us over $4,000 a year, and considering that this agency or the county will be responsible for maintaining the Crescent City landfill at least through 2036. Through that time, this represents an $80,000 savings.
Yeah, that is very good news. Thank you. We expect that every month.
I will continue to do my best.
Any questions of Ted, technical questions or anything? And this doesn't require anything but acknowledging and filing?
That's right.
So-
The board has already taken this action to direct
Very
me
good.
to do this. And it's important to realize while this is stepping back from our stormwater monitoring requirements, we still monitor surface water, and so the public is still protected by our monitoring.
Thank you, and thank you for your work on that. That's great.
I did want to comment. Again, just excellent getting the termination notice. And my question was, at the end of the meeting, we also had spoke about, Mr. Kieran had said that the transfer station was one of the cleanest that he'd seen, and that he didn't know that there was a need to also have the storm water monitoring at the transfer station. I thought that we had, I'm not sure if it was part of an action item at that point, or if we were going to move ahead with also termination of, because
It's
of
not
the...
quite termination. But it is a lesser regulatory tier, and I have not yet submitted that application for that portion of it. So it's not quite the notice of termination where we have no further stormwater monitoring or reporting responsibilities, but it would be not as stringent as the new requirements would be. So that is what we're looking to apply for. And we already have the direction, I just haven't submitted it. So I will keep the board informed.
Very good. And for the public, again, the state of California has put forward some quite more stringent requirements starting in July of this year for storm water monitoring, which would increase the cost to all facilities around the state. And so by moving ahead and getting this terminated at the landfill, it will save quite a bit of money and a lot more work that would be put on us down the road in July. So by Mr. Ward moving ahead with this, it's wonderful news for this authority.
I agree. Any other comments? Okay. Very good. Thanks again, Ted. Collections franchise. This is item 3.1, discussion and possible action regarding the process for selecting and training a general manager for Recology Del Norte as described by Ed Farrell, Recology's regional manager.
Yes, I'd invite Ed Farwell to say a few words and introduce himself. This is the regional manager for Recology, and he has quite the area of jurisdiction and responsibility, but since the passing of Mr. Sparrow, Ed has stepped up. He used to be the general manager here for Recology prior to Mr. Sparrow, I believe. So he's familiar with this area, and we have a long-standing working relationship, so I really don't have great concerns, but of course I wanted to make sure that Mr. Farrell understood, as we all do, that we're expecting that we have a local manager for Recology at some time in the not-too-distant future.
Understood.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Hill.
Thank you for having me here. Excuse me. Again, my name's Ed Farwell. I am the group manager for Recology, the Northern California division. And Ted is correct. I was the general manager here at that time, Del Norte Disposal, from 1994 to almost 1998. But I would like to thank you, Vice Chair Hawley, for opening this meeting and recognizing Tommy Sparrow and what he has done for this community over the last 18 years. And he's sorely going to be missed in our company, and we appreciate all that he's done during this time. So again, thank you. Again, we're in the process of recruiting a new manager. At this point, we are looking internally, and depending on who we find or if there are any candidates that will actually be a good fit, then we'll move forward. If not, we will be looking outside. So I expect that the recruitment process will take some time. But in the meantime, I'm available. I won't be seated here, on a regular basis, but as needed. And certainly, I've provided my email address and my phone number. So please contact me at any time for any reason. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Good news, I'm just, since you happen to be here, I've been wondering for a while, since you're the regional manager, I was just looking at the condition of some of the Recology trucks sometime. I was hoping that maybe Del Norte could get some of the newer versions if they happen to come available, because some of the trucks are getting kind of older. And
I
so
can imagine
didn't
my
know if we got all
operation
the old ones up here.
supervisor over, I didn't have to look at him, he's probably smiling right now, saying, go,
Really?
go, go, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, he
so
actually
since
had
we've
that
got-
discussion with me today,
Since we have
so.
the supervisor, seems
yeah.
I don't want Del Norte to get all the old trucks.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have some of the newer, nice trucks if possible. So
Okay.
I'd like to put that out there for the authorities, since you happen to be here.
Okay, I hear you, and we will do what we can, and I promised Jeremy just today that I would look into that matter, so.
Very good, thank
Thank
you.
you.
We're on the
Thank you.
same page.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, new stereo systems.
Clean up.
Any other
You know, there's
questions?
something, I don't know what the word I'm thinking of, anachronistic of having a brand-new trash truck picking up dirty old garbage.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how, it probably speaks well of the community. So, yeah, I think we'd like some nice, new, spanking new, fresh, clean-looking trucks cleaning up our community, and that speaks well of Recology and our community. So thank you, Ed, for looking into that.
Okay,
Or newer, I mean, at least. That'd be
understood.
nice.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no items for the transfer station, but under General Solid Waste Authority matters, we have discussion and possible action regarding the selection process for Public Commissioner to serve on the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority Board for a term of 24 months. Mr. Ward, do you want to introduce this for us?
Yes, we have 9 very good applicants to the public commissioner appointment. Typically, this appointment is selected by the city and county members. And so one way the board might do this is to invite all the city and the county commissioners to vote for their top, say, 3 or 4, and submit those to me, and I'll review them with Martha Rice, but we'll compile them and then come up with the top 3 or 4 for interviews at the April 21st meeting. There are lots of variations about how you might be able to do that, but that keeps the amount of time necessary at the meeting to do the interviews to a minimum, and it also acknowledges everybody's input.
Thank you. And I will say, before I open it up to everyone, Ted and I have talked about this, and I know initially I was thinking in terms of a small committee or something like that, but this seems like a more equitable way for each of the commissioners to get their input and to get the number down to a manageable number to interview. Again, this is a nice problem to have.
It is.
So I'll open it up for discussion here. Thank you. Mr. Gitlin.
Mr. Chairman and Ted, I guess the question I'd ask is this presentation and vetting candidates, is this in public? Or I'd like the public to know where each commissioner stands. Frankly, doing it at a meeting, even if we have to call a special meeting, or are you asking for us to give our choices after we vet the candidates and give them to the chair, and then those 3 or 4 candidates would then be up for review? Because I'd like a public vetting of all the candidates, if that's possible.
That's certainly one option. We can have, it would have to be a special meeting with 8
It would
candidates.
probably need to be a special meeting because it would take some time to provide full interviews for 9 candidates. So
Well,
what I was
I think
suggesting.
the point I was making is I'm not comfortable by making a private choice, not publicly or privately. I would like everything to be out in an open forum, like a meeting like this, where the public is here and those who are here, and to hear the commissioners give their 3 choices, and if necessary, to be subject to questioning what is your reasoning for doing so. I think that's clean, it's open, it's robust, and it's in my comfort zone, rather than quietly saying, here, Mr. Chairman, here are my 3 or 4 choices, and then no one hears why they weren't selected. So that would be my input. I don't know how the rest of the authority feels, but that would be my input.
At the last, when there was a 10-member board and Ms. Wilson was selected for the first time, what happened were all of the candidates were interviewed, and then the city and the county commissioners did essentially rank and number, provide a number ranking for each of the potential candidates. Those were compiled, and that's how it was done. So what I'm suggesting is actually not very different from that, except it is doing the numerical process first to reduce the number of folks that are interviewed by the full board.
It would be based on what we have in our packets, basically, based on the resumes and the answers to those simple questions that we provided. I'd be interested in other comments or ideas.
I was just thinking, remember when you were appointed to the city council and basically us candidates, which I was one of them, we had questions that we could prepare for beforehand and come in front of the commission, and then the city council at that time went back and made a decision on who they were going to choose, which was you over me.
Yeah, they knew they knew what they were doing.
So what I think that would be a good thing, if we could whittle them down and then have the, top 4 or 5 candidates actually come into a public forum like that, and they would have time to answer the questions of how, we would want them to be able to, be on the board and critically think about what we do.
So you'd be in favor of just picking the top 3 or 4 and sending those to Ted and seeing where there's overlaps and
Well,
where we can
yeah,
go?
I mean, with any job, process, you always get like a bunch of candidates, and then you have to whittle those down to the ones that are the tops, and then you do final interviews. So.
To be clear, the way I would do the analysis is say that the commissioners were asked to provide their top 3. Then I would weight those in order, meaning the top ranking vote would be treated as their first priority, so that would get 3 points, second would get 2 points,
was my
last would
vision.
get 1, and then I just total up the numbers for each of the applicants, and then the top 3 vote getters totaling all those scores would be invited.
Yes, Mr. Gitlin.
Something's missing here. I've got to go over this again. I would like all candidates, all 9, publicly vetted. I'm not talking about making a choice without, if we're selecting 3, let's say, 6 people who are applying aren't going to know why they weren't selected publicly. Now, that's not in my comfort zone. So I would like the opportunity as a commissioner to interview all 9 publicly with that list of questions. Now, it may be a little more time-consuming, and it might be a bit more cumbersome, but then there's a feeling that everyone has a fair shot. There's too much going on where something happens and this one doesn't get interviewed. And I've seen this happen on other agencies. People aren't even called back. Someone is miraculously appointed, which happened recently on another one of our agencies, and the people who applied aren't even acknowledged that they have an application on file. So this is what concerns me. I'd like a full public vetting of all candidates. And if you want it as a motion, I'll make that.
I would think that it would be fine to go with Mr. Ward's recommendation. And typically in a business, when you do receive applications, you go through the application and you don't interview every single person. You choose those that you do interview. So it's pretty common, so I would be comfortable with that. I did want to bring up a couple issues, though. Also, my thought was, I know that in the past that there have been often times where prior elected officials, former electeds, had been in the seated as the public member, and I'm thinking I was the first one who was not a prior elected official that was seated as the public member, and I would like to put forward to this board that the process that a true public representative who is not currently or has not prior, held public office would be considered as well. No former employees from the vendors, Recology or WSG or from the authority. I just think it would be a good policy for the public member to, again, be, not bring any political baggage with them, or, but just really for the public. So that's something else I would like to throw into the mix today to consider for this position.
Okay, thank you. Point well taken.
Oh,
I-
and I did have one more, sorry. And I don't think the public members should really vote on,
Right.
like the current seated public members should vote on who the next public member should be. I just think
That
that
raises a question in my mind, and I'd like to ask our legal counsel as to what is the appropriate level of engagement in discussing the process for selection, considering that Commissioner Wilson is applying.
You know, if I could jump in a little bit, in anticipation of this discussion, I went ahead and looked at the bylaws, and I went in and looked at our articles of incorporation, or what do we call those, the JPA documents, and it doesn't give a lot of guidance. I didn't get any guidance from that, but perhaps council has some.
Well, just as any public member will have the ability to comment on the, the proposed process that we take, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with Commissioner Wilson commenting on the process. I do see at least an apparent conflict in voting, as I think Ms. Wilson's pointed out.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, and I was going to bring that up too. So, good. I appreciate your comments on how you would feel, since you are a candidate along with others. So really, the issue turns on how much time we really want to spend. I mean, interviewing 9 candidates is significantly different than interviewing 4 or 5. But I don't, the other option, of course, is something that I haven't put forward, and that is we could create a committee to do the same thing, but you'd have the same concerns if we had a committee outside.
I would, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering about this time element. What would be, I don't want to call it harm, but what would be the problem with allowing all 9 candidates to come in from this dais and make a 3-minute presentation to us, and then at that point, we can have some discussion if we choose to, a question or two, to publicly vet. I think that's open. I think it gives everybody an opportunity to see that we are transparent, and I think it's healthy. So I still have that motion, and I'm waiting for a second on that, to publicly have all candidates the opportunity to speak before this authority and on a presentation of who they are and what they're all about.
Okay, we have a motion. If we can commit to the time, I think I'd second the motion. I don't see any harm in having everybody come forward and spending a little bit. It's an important thing to do. One moment, please. So I'm going to go ahead and second that motion.
And if I may qualify that, and I will put the time on it, of
Good.
a 5-minute window, to allow someone to take that time to give us 2 to 3 minutes of who they are and what they're all about, and an opportunity for those of us to ask a question or two, just to give everybody their fair shot. And if you'll allow me to add the 5-minute time proviso in there, then, and you can second that, I would appreciate it.
Okay, I would so second. I'm wondering, though, process-wise, I'd like to get some clarity in this meeting. I'd see all the candidates going to a different room and coming out one at a time and answering the questions. Then the others don't have the advantage of hearing the other answers of the other candidates, and that's really the only fair
I
thing.
think we've done it there's a history of doing it that
Right.
way before.
Right, and even when I was on the council and got appointed, that's how we did it.
I'm
so.
remembering that, as Mr. Gastineau said, I was also one of those candidates who was applying for that fill-in spot, which I didn't get, and Mr. Hawley did.
Yeah, again, a good decision.
Sour grapes permeate the room. But the process was a healthy one, and one in which we all had an opportunity to speak before, in this case, the 5-member city council. So thank you for.
Before we do the vote, though, I think we should have public comment on this. Mr. Miles, you're anxious to talk to us. And
Well, anytime you have an agendized item, you're supposed to have public comment.
that's why I asked for public comment.
My name's Richard Miles. I've been attending these meetings for the last 21 years since I moved to Crescent City. And I think both Mr. Gitland and Mary made some good sense today. Maybe that's on Mr. Gitland's part a little unusual, but I don't want to see something I've seen in the past. I remember that a former board calling for the community to step forth. And guess who got it? Jack Reese. And he came along with his own agenda. So until Jack Reese moved away, we had to put up with Jack Reese. And I don't want to see that again. That's when people were getting paid to sit on here. Just was another way for Jack to collect a little bit of money. I hope you would have a special meeting and take Mr. Gitlin's. But at the same time, after working with somebody for the last 3.5 years, I think you got somebody already on the board that you should just consider, because she's doing an excellent job.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. Any other comments? Yes.
Elizabeth Henry, county resident. I just wanted to comment, because the public does watch these meetings, that if they get a copy of the agenda, just look online. There are some very complete applications, and I think that's a really positive thing. People really responded in a good way and provided information, their goals and all that. So it's easy to read those and to, get a sense of what people are about and why they're applying. The thing I'd really like to speak to is Commissioner Wilson's statement that former elected officials should not be allowed to apply. As a former elected official, I did represent the public. I was elected by the public. I served for 8 years. I left. I didn't leave the public. I really feel that isn't a disqualifier, because you don't necessarily bring anything in. Sometimes you're just relieved to be rid of that kind of office and really participate in a public forum. So anyway, I think it should be as open as possible, and that's just my comments. Thank you.
And I think that's why, thank you. I think that's why I hadn't intended to go this direction, but that's why I seconded Mr. Gitlin's motion, that people took the time to do very complete applications, and I think they should be heard. So that's why I did so. So any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Tim Hoon, county resident. I think this idea of having all the candidates speak is an excellent one. I was really encouraged to see so much interest in the public position, and from young people like Mr. Fallman to people with years of experience, and that all bring something to the table. And I'm be interested to learn more about these folks, even though there's only one seat on the board with the, I guess, 9 candidates, but maybe there's somewhere else these folks could fit in as the board and the public learn more about them and their interests. But so it's great to see so many candidates, and I think that would be wonderful to hear from each one just a little bit more about them, and appreciate the time they did put in their applications. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hoon. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Gastineau?
Yes.
Commissioner Gitlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
And Chairman Hawley?
Yes. Okay, thank you. We'll all have to commit to spending a little more time, and hopefully we can do it as a part of our regular meeting. Oh, before we leave this item, there's one ancillary part of this that I needed to get clarity for, so there's no surprises in the next meeting. When we took action last June, I went back and looked at the minutes, actually. When we took action last June, Mary, we had you continue your office until the March meeting. And here we are at the March meeting. And I want to see, since all of us were on the board at that time, was it your impression that this would be Mary's last meeting, or do you feel that she continues to serve until someone else comes on. There's no clarity, as I say, in the bylaws or the JPA documents on how we do this. But I don't want to suddenly say, oh, by the way, it's your last meeting. But I do think we need to have.
Are you
some-
asking for
I'm
authority
asking
input?
for, does anyone remember what maybe the intent of that action was?
My personal point of
Yes.
view, I think it's implied that we have a 5-member board, and if necessary, we need an exigent motion to keep Commissioner Wilson on in her old term for an additional month. I would so move, if that's what's necessary for clarity, but it never occurred to me that this would be Commissioner Wilson's last meeting, despite the fact we haven't selected
Right.
a replacement, which may very well be her. I don't know how to say it any other way.
Okay.
But I would just automatically assume that this is a 5-member board until we decide it's different.
That's the dilemma we have in front of us. So we have a motion then to extend Mary's term for 1 more month.
That'd be the
I'll
old term.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments, questions? Okay, how about all in favor? Say aye.
Chair.
Oh, yes, sir.
This particular action's not agendized for today. You could add it to the beginning of the next meeting.
That'd be
If
fine.
this is what you'd like to do.
And with understanding that Mary will be provided
Sure.
a packet like everyone else.
Point of order on this,
Yes, sir.
can this be, if you're planning on having a special meeting between now and the next meeting, could this also
It
be
could-
put on the special agenda?
Yes. So
Okay, so
whichever
this
the
could be
next meeting is.
agendized, and I'm going to use an example of that, we're going to have a meeting in 2 weeks, let's say, to hear the candidates, all 9 of them. Could that also be put on it as an exigent item to be put there for the following, for an additional 1 month period, which would cover that window? Is that acceptable, Counselor?
Yes, whatever, if the next meeting is a regular meeting or a special meeting, that could be the first item on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
So clarity, are we looking
So-
at a special meeting or not?
So I don't know. I think,
Well, if you have 9 candidates, 5 minutes apiece, about 50 minutes right there.
yeah, we're going to need a special meeting, or we have to commit to staying longer at the next general meeting. Can we do so?
I'm fine with whatever it is, as long as I have prior arrangements, can make arrangements accordingly. Are you saying then we won't have a second special meeting? We're going to have, our next meeting will be April 21st, and in there, it'll be a longer meeting
longer
than
meeting.
normal. I guess the question, Commissioner Gastineau, are you able to do that on your schedule?
Oh, yeah. I mean, tonight we only have the lead-in awards and stuff that we're going to, and then another meeting. But usually it's, I have to work till 3:10, so it's usually in the morning that's the problem.
Okay, so let's plan on just tacking this on to the next meeting, and that'll be a good one. Thank you, Mr. Gitlin and Commissioners. That was a good, and I knew that was going to be our longest item probably, so.
Do we need to retract our motion?
Yes, I think we probably should.
I retract my
You
second.
retract your second?
Yes.
Do you retract yours too, Mr. Gitlin?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you all for sitting in on that. 5.2, the discussion of possible action regarding possible execution of an agreement with either Total Compensation Systems, Inc. or Bickmore to conduct a required actuarial evaluation for an amount not to exceed $2,600. Mr. Ward.
This underscores the wisdom of the board in directing me to look for the best and final offer. And they both reduced their best and final offer. And so now each Total Compensation Systems and Bickmore have proposed to do this work for $2,300. So again, they're still at the same price. And consequently, my recommendation would be to go with Bickmore, as they are the same company that is providing those services to the county.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Ward?
What was their original bid?
3,000. 3,000, and then I got a unsolicited proposal from Total Compensation Systems. I called Bickmore. They dropped their rate to 2,600. They were not both mentioned on the agenda, and so it was tabled to this meeting where they were both specified, and I was directed to see if they could come down, and they both came down to 2,300.
Good. Work.
$700.
Okay. So no more technical questions. Are there any public comments on this? Okay, seeing no public comments, we'll bring it back to the board.
Do we have to take action on this? That's within your discretion. It's under $5,000.
That's correct. I suppose I could just execute the contract. That's fine. If there's no motion, I'll do that.
We can do it either way. Would you feel better, given the discussions that's occurred prior to getting a motion? Does it-
I'm trying to engage the board. If the board chooses not to engage in this way, I'd be happy to make the decision on your behalf.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Okay.
I've got a
Yes, sir.
question. Okay, so total compensation system, Bickmore, right? What's the difference? What are the advantages? What, did I miss something here? Was there an advantage to one over the other?
Not
The same price?
significantly. They both offer the similar services for the same price. Relevant information is that Bickmore has done this for several years running for our agency as well as the county, and they will continue doing it for the county, so it makes some sense, since they're reviewing the similar information from the county, that they also review ours at the same time.
Is there a recommendation on your behalf, sir?
My recommendation would be to go with Bickmore, yes.
Okay.
So if there's no motion, Ted will just take it under his authority.
Is there necessary, if it's an amount that's under?
No.
So
Okay.
there is no motion necessary to affirm that then?
No, but thank you, Ted. We'll look forward to getting that actuarial evaluation completed.
fine.
5.3, discussion and possible action regarding the request from the Yurok Tribe Environmental Program for technical and financial support for the Klamath River Cleanup event on April 18th from 9 to 2. Mr. Ward.
Staff recommend we continue support for the Yurok Tribal Environmental Program efforts on the Klamath River cleanup. This is a great event. If anybody's interested in attending, I strongly recommend it. You get a T-shirt. There's a great salmon feed, in addition to cleaning up a bunch of areas of Klamath. So that's on April 18th from 9 a.m. till 2. The Solid Waste Authority's support for this event cost $1,614 last year, and I would expect it to be about the same this year.
Okay. So,
What
questions?
type of technical help are they asking for? It says technical and financial.
Previously, I went down and reviewed with their program the areas where they would be doing the cleanups, how they would arrange for coordinating volunteers, where the dumpsters would be dropped, how materials could be separated. I reviewed some of the dump sites themselves and looked at what might be recoverable, but mostly it's strewn trash that just needs cleaning up.
Other questions, Mr. Gittler?
Yes, Ted, I spoke with Mr. Patterson before our meeting this morning. He's not asking for a donated dumpster.
Right.
So they're paying for their own dumpsters?
They essentially bring the materials that are collected to us, and then we pay for the fees.
So the only fees incurred would be the tipping fees?
That's correct.
Estimated to be about 10 tons.
A lot of the expense from the previous years have been the appliances and tires and mattresses, the per item things that are not charged on a per ton basis.
So I get 10 tons, $142 a ton, $1,400, and the other items would be, for instance, extra cost items like tires, et cetera, mattresses if there are some. So I would support that, and if I would offer the motion to waive those fees for the Yurok tribe, those tipping fees accordingly.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any public comment on waiving the tipping fees? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Any further discussion? None? Would you please poll the vote, since this involves money?
Commissioner Gastineau?
Yes.
Commissioner Hawley?
Yes.
Excuse me, Commissioner Gitlin?
Yes?
Sorry, I took that out of turn. Commissioner Wilson?
Yes?
That's all of
And-
us, isn't it? Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. 5.4, discussion and possible action regarding a request from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for allocation of an authority-directed bin and waiving the disposal fees for scotch broom and other debris to be removed from the Pacific Shore subdivision on March 28, 2015.
Again, staff recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr.
I
Gitlin?
guess I'm the one asking all the questions today. I'm a little scratching my head on this one. The state agency, Department of Fish and Wildlife, I offered this same opportunity to them to clean up this private beach effort. They actually, we offered, I said, would you like me to go before our authority board? And they said, no, we'll pay for our own dumpster. So we'll pay for that. And I'm wondering why the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service doesn't have some budget to pay for the bin. I didn't get a chance to call them because it came in. I did not get a chance to answer that. But with the bin purchase is covered all the contents inside the bin, which is the waiving of those fees. They're asking us to waive fees, and they're asking us to provide a 30-ton dumpster, which is part of the 20 that are allotted.
30 cubic yards, sir.
I'm just a little concerned why we're doing one for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and yet the state Department of Fish and Wildlife is paying for its own dumpster. I see us at a little bit of discriminating a little bit, one for the other, and I don't know if that's a good message.
I would imagine that at least part of it is there seems to be some connectivity between Pacific Shores and the airport authority's effort at extending the runway. I mean, I don't know if it's a tight association, but a lot of those Pacific Shores properties are part of that exchange that was necessary to improve that runway, and maybe the idea was that it involved the county in a greater way thereby, is what I'm thinking.
So the donation of a dumpster and the contents, which is 30 tons, is 30 yards. How much tonnage would you expect would fit in there?
I'd have to look it up.
Just ballpark, you think about 10 tons?
I'm not confident. I look up such things. I'm sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head.
I'm a little uncomfortable with doing for one and not for the other, and they're both governances. One's federal, one's state.
There was only one dumpster requested, and Hambro has already agreed that they would waive their portion of the fees, so there is some momentum, and this is what they've requested. As far as I know, there is not any standing policy for the authority regarding its relationship to state agencies or federal agencies and the allocation of dumpsters.
Okay, this is before us. Maybe we'll get some public comment on this. Is there any public comment on this matter? Yes, sir.
What? No, I think you have, as far as I know.
Hi, Craig Strong, county resident. I would say that this is a really worthy cause, and anything you can do to restore habitat and clean up Pacific Shores, which is just in a dismal condition, both environmentally and with respect to illegal dumping. I think the effort we're discussing regards habitat restoration, environment, rather than cleanup. I appreciate Mr. Gitlin's concern about the preferential treatment, but my take on it would be take what you can get. If California Fish and Wildlife is willing to provide their own dumpster, that's great. That's a benefit to you and to us all. And then if Fish and Wildlife is requesting it, well, it is certainly a worthy cause, and Recology has already stepped up in donating equipment, so I would encourage you to provide the free tipping fees for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comment? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. Is there a motion on this?
Well, I just like to say that's my take on it too. If, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife doesn't request it and wants to pay their own, let them do that. And then if the U.S. Wildlife, it's not discrimination if they are going different paths.
Yeah,
Sure.
Mr. Gitt.
I want to make myself perfectly clear on this. I'm prepared to support this because there's a greater good here. That's for starters. I made this same offer to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife on a fouled piece of property no less beautiful than Tolowa Dunes. Let's make very clear, this is 101, this is where illegal camping was done, illegal dumping was done, right at Sand Mine Road. It was that agency, that very commendable act, they said, no, we will have budget. You do not have to provide us with a dumpster. They made the offer to me, which frankly took me back. And I said, thank you. I will bring that to our board, which means this, because it's a private matter, I didn't have to come to this authority to ask for a donated dumpster for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. My question, I don't know if it's answerable before this authority today. My question is, why can't, apparently meager funds, it's not a lot of money, why can't this come from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services? Why can't they provide that dumpster and provide that? The volunteers are going to be there. The same kind of volunteers are going to come out and clean up the property at San Mine Road. The same kind of volunteers are going to be going there. I would like to know why that question has not been asked, if they can find that money, because ultimately, and I'll address Mr. Strong right here, this is public money. This is your money. And I appreciate it. It's my money too. And if we can save this agency, our particular governance, $1,600, better than it provide a service elsewhere. If the federal government can step up and provide its own dumpster, just like the state of California. So that's where my quandary is. It's not about discrimination per se. It's about asking the U.S. Wildlife Service to please step up and provide its own dumpster, at least the request that can be added. Now, do we have time to put this on table to ask that question of them, if they can find the funds in their budget to provide this, or is this an exigent matter that has to be decided today?
It is a matter to be decided today. However, the board, if it so chooses, could move that before authorizing the allocation of one of these dumpsters, that we request that Fish and Wildlife pay for it. That certainly could be a motion. But the activity that they're using for the cleanup is scheduled for this month.
April 18th.
And so...
Is that, I'm reading the dates correctly?
March.
All right, okay.
It's this
Sorry.
month. And so
March 28th, I'm sorry.
It'll be
it is this
before
month.
our next meeting, and so
Yes.
decision is, they're asking for a request, and it's timely in front of you now.
Okay. Well, I think there's no way we're going to answer why U.S. Fish and Wildlife can't and the California can, but it could be just as you stated. It's a budgetary issue. One agency put it in their budget and the other one didn't. So we need to make a decision accordingly. So, I'll ask my colleagues here, is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the authority director bidding and waiving the disposal fees for Scotts Brim and other debris removal for Pacific Shore subdivision for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Thank you. Is there a second? Well, I'll go ahead and
Yeah, I'll
second.
second
Sorry.
it.
Seconded by Mary Wilson. So, any other comments or questions? Okay, would you please poll the vote on this?
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gitlin?
Because of the greater good, I'm going to vote yes on this.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gastineau?
Yes.
And President Chairman Czar Holly?
Do I have a new title? Okay. 5.5, discussion and possible action regarding the authority's participation with the Youth and Family Fair on April 18th to promote and provide outreach regarding the authorities and Recology's Del Norte reuse, recycling, composting, product stewardship, and hazardous waste programs.
This is to inform the board and the general public that the Solid Waste Management Authority and Recology and Drew Lindra will all be participating in the Youth and Family Fair on April 19th at the Del Norte County Fairgrounds. And so there will be information available. We're planning on having a box maze, so it should be fun. And unfortunately, I won't be in town at that point, but we will be developing and making sure that our education and public information is out there. And we may be coordinating with some of the members of the task force who have expressed interest in helping us with our educational efforts.
Okay, thank you. And is there an action associated with this?
Not at this time. It's just letting you all know.
Thank you. Any questions of Ted on this? Okay, thank you. Item 5.6, I know everyone is here to talk about the ethics policy and the 700 forms. But I'd like to skip that if we could at this time and go on to our agenda, because we do have an important closed session agenda to get to well before 5 o'clock, and we could put this on the next meeting. I do think, though, that Ted, prior to doing that, you have a reminder for us?
I'm sorry, what?
You have a reminder regarding
Yeah,
the California?
The Form 700 forms are due to the county by the end of the month, and so those of you who are on other bodies have probably already completed these, and if I could have a copy for our office, that would be great. And that also applies to our public commissioner. So that applies to our current public commissioner as well as the newly appointed public commissioner, so I'll make sure that they have those forms as well.
Thank you. Is it agreeable with everyone here to go on?
That's fine.
Okay, let's go on to the directors and treasurers reports, agenda items 6.5 through 6.1, excuse me, through 6.5. Directors report?
Okay, so again, we're trying to move on at a good clip, so I will assume you all have read this, and I will be moving quickly through the information here. During this last month, I repaired a well at the Crescent City landfill because it had been damaged by vandalism and is necessary to be repaired before we complete our water testing. Continued efforts on marine flares, and in that regard, I am trying to register and attend a household hazardous waste and used oil conference down in Pasadena in an effort to talk to other representatives of coastal communities about how they're managing their marine flares and ways that we might be able to coordinate our efforts towards legislation. I drove a bulldozer to do some grading work out at the landfill. I've been working with Recology regarding the improved crank system for the bins. I was a guest lecturer at the environmental science class for College of the Redwoods. I have submitted an application to the Mattress Recycling Council that the Del Norte County Transfer Station be a mattress collection center when that product stewardship program gets rolling. I also met with Heidi Kunstall to discuss the fiscal year 15-16 budget as it relates to community cleanup resources. We are in the process of hiring an account clerk, and the first round of interviews for that account clerk position happened today. Will likely be 2 or 3 months before that new hire is actually selected, trained, and productively working. We have also started a hiring process for additional part-time temporary refuse site attendants, as I mentioned, because of the extended medical absence of at least one of our attendees. Vandalism has damaged some fencing as well as some well casings out at the landfill, and we're looking at repair costs for those. Something I'm hesitant to mention, but I really feel like it's important that the general public know that we have a very specific, detailed process by which cost savings proposals may be put forth by any of our contractors. And it's important to recognize that Recology, and I've discussed this with Ed Farewell, has a provision in their agreement, and there is no limit to the number or frequency of cost savings proposals that Recology may put forth. As acting director, I have never seen such a proposal in writing at any time from Mr. Sparrow. Mr. Farewell has also said that he is not aware of any such a written plan. Therefore, I am not aware of any written plan indicating that there are cost savings available for which I would have provided presentation and analysis for the authority board. I'm not aware of the existence of such a plan. Regarding compliance, there's ongoing concerns because things are falling further behind. For example, the semi-annual water quality monitoring that we're supposed to be completed in January is still not done, and here we are at mid-March. Part of the challenge of this is that I do work with county personnel, county engineering department staff, and they also have competing demands, and we just haven't been able to get together and find a time when we can do the sampling. So that sampling is behind. Similarly, data entry needs to be in the GeoTracker system, and while I've spent several hours trying to get to that, that is also behind. I mentioned the marine flare advisory efforts, and those will continue. And new news, I've just made arrangements to, at least tentative arrangements, to meet with the Regional Water Quality Control Board and discuss the threat and complexity rating and the associated waste discharge requirements fees. You may recall at the last meeting, the board approved partial payment for that fee. The Crescent City landfill is a 1A threat complexity rating, and we paid as if it was a 2A. And so from the official standpoint, there's still money due, but at least in casual conversations I've had with the director of the Regional Water Quality Control Board, Matt St. John, he said he acknowledged that he didn't feel like this fee was appropriate for the size of the landfill and the size of the community. Though he feels that technically it may be justified as a 1A threat, unfortunately there is no provision within the fee structure to acknowledge the size of the facility or the size of the community. And so as a result, we have a very high fee, over $70,000 for a community of under 30,000. So we will continue to try to appeal this and see if there's a better resolution we can come to. I'm not exactly sure what that resolution will be, but the next step is meeting face-to-face to discuss it.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that's going to happen. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Any questions of Mr. Ward of his report?
I didn't really have any questions, but I did see in here that you had commented about something that Mr. Sparrow had said in regards to savings, cost savings for the community. And I'm sorry that Mr. Miles has left, because I also, Mr. Miles and myself had met with Mr. Sparrow at one point in time, and he definitely did put forward that there were ways that the community could save some money in regards to potential privatization of different parts of and so I just wanted to put that out, that it sounds as if questioning if he had said that or not, but Mr. Miles and myself would be able to verify that he felt that the fees could be as low as $116 a ton, and so he gave a specific number and figure. And so I just wanted to comment that I had heard that. I haven't seen anything in writing or an analysis, but he did say that in the past. The other thing was in regards to the meeting. I'm happy that that's moving ahead. I don't know, when is that planned?
At this point, it is tentatively scheduled for April 10th.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's good. Is anyone going down with you, or?
Working on that.
So anyway, that.
Yeah, I'm trying to arrange my schedule, but I think I have a council meeting now that I'm dealing with it, so we will further discussion. The April.
It's a Friday.
Oh, it's a Friday, so I wouldn't have a council meeting on there, so it may be very possible.
That'd be a really good idea if you
Yeah.
could attend that as well. And
Okay.
so
I'm just curious on that date. That happens to be the date of the Chamber of Commerce Economic Summit. And that would be it's also, we have a North Coast Unified Air Quality Management District here at the same day at 11 to 12. It's very busy. Now, what's the time frame for this?
It'll tentatively, we scheduled it for 3:30 on April 10th in Santa Rosa.
Oh, so well, I guess that wouldn't impact anybody.
No, I mean, it's looking more possible for me to go also. I think it's important enough that you can go. So, good. Thank you. Okay, so going back to our agenda, that was your report, Treasurer Controller's report for 2015. Mr. Taylor?
The County Auditor's report as of January 31st, 2015, we have $636,322.13 with the county, plus the iBank loan deposit held by the county of $198,177.17. We're running at a profit.
Okay.
I was questioning, I was looking at this net OPEB obligation, which I noticed, again, it was one of the significant findings that was put forward when the outside auditor looked at the books that we mentioned what our obligation is. But also I know that we have voted to set aside, it was $11,000 on a, I think, $55,000 obligation this last year and prior. So it would be nice for to see it on a specific line that says what we had voted to set aside, or does that go to the county? Is that on this? Where is that money?
It's in the budget on the profit and loss side of this, which they didn't provide.
Uh-huh.
But it's in the budget, but we say we're gonna put 11,000 in, and the obligation's like 100 and some thousand a year. We're falling behind on that, which is part of what the auditors are saying, you need to raise your rates to cover that future retirement benefit.
Right, so again, definitely a concern of mine that we have unfunded liabilities.
Yes.
For anyone were to retire, we're asked to put in $55,000 a year, and we've only been putting in $11,000 a year because we're following the model that the county uses, which isn't really a justification for me.
Yeah, they're falling behind also.
I feel that we should be putting more aside, but is it, can we see this, what our set aside amount is on the balance sheet? No?
Yeah, it's not on the balance sheet, the 11,000 goes into the budget on the profit and loss side. And you'll see that, but
Doesn't have a
when you
special line
when you
of its
come
own?
up with, actually, we have a special report on it in the audit, there's a whole section on it.
Mhm.
And that would be a place to look at it, so. But yeah, we're falling behind each year.
We'll be jumping on the budget here pretty quick for 15,
So
16.
to solve that, and I don't, Mary must have looked at this, if it's 55,000 is the number they're recommending we put in there, then you would put that in the budget. And of course, then what they say is you need to raise rates, which is kind of where there's a little stumbling block there, and that's kind of where it falls back to the 11,000, but there's other ways to do that. So,
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Taylor?
No, but I do have a comment. Last time at this meeting, there was a member of the public that stood up and made comments in regards to Mr. Taylor and his potential involvement with the theft of money from this authority. And I am sorry at the time that I did not speak out because I felt that that person was out of place. Mr. Taylor does not have direct contact with cash funds, and there is no way that he would have been able to have anything to do with this theft as this member of the public put forward. And I just would like to clarify the public record and stand up for Mr. Taylor, and we're certainly very happy. He certainly was never considered a person of interest, and he does not have any direct contact with that, the money and cash money from the authority. So I just felt that that needed to be said in public meeting.
Thank you. This was very well said. Okay, so moving on then. Claims approved by the Treasurer and the Director for January 2015.
I'll breeze through this. Once again, the biggest payments this last month were to Hambro WSG, as always, for the iBank payment and the partial payment of the permit fee to the State Water Resources Control Board agency. Regarding our regular monthly cash and charge reports, they're there in front of you. And in general, we are, again, slightly ahead of our revenue projections. I've adjusted the budget per year based on the previous budget transfer. So on item 6.5, you'll see that we, at this point in time, are still $9,000 ahead of the budget for our authority service fees, and we're about $5,000 behind in our projections for the franchise fees.
Okay, thank you.
Which isn't bad. I did the calculations. It looks like we're just about 1% down for our franchise fees, which it wasn't much, but our income is up significantly over the prior year. I've got $24,000 over the prior year, which is good.
Okay. So we're doing well tonight. That's great. The Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Service Authority, we're going to...
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Did this over the charge reports? I'm sorry, did I miss?
I think he combined the two, the charge
Okay, well,
reports?
I had some questions.
Okay.
Oh, I'd be happy to answer questions.
I'm always drawn to the aging sheet.
Mhm.
Maybe you should rename that aging sheet. So I'm always drawn to the aging over 90 days.
Right.
And I guess the numbers are 3 digits, and it doesn't alarm me, but when I see something that's $2,033
Right.
and 84 cents ported to trucking and logging,
That has been referred to collections.
okay? And the other one, I just want like this is this Redwood National Park? This has been going on a long time. Right?
We're still chasing the records, yes, but we brought that down significantly from where it has been, but it's still $1,100 that we haven't been able to track down in terms of the receipts. Part of the challenge was that during 2012, 2013, payments would be made from Redwood National Park, and they would go into the general fund of the county. And so we need to correlate what exactly we were billing and the documentation we have from that, and what bill they were paying in order to justify that then be moved from the county's funds to ours.
Is it my understanding that Redwood State Park, National Park, has stated that they have paid this bill? Is that my clear understanding? of
No.
this? So they are agreeing they owe money?
Not exactly either.
Okay, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this, so the next time we have this meeting, 30 days from now, when you and I are looking eyeball to eyeball on this, I would like to know that this money is owed to us, and if it's in the county general fund, then we get it, it's our money. And if it doesn't, then let's have a serious conversation with Redwood National Park as to how much is in dispute, if at all, and why this thing goes on month after month after month. I know we're having this discussion. I'd like to see it become an action item. It's our money. Am I missing something here?
I wish it didn't have additional complications, but it does. And those complications involve changes in personnel, changes in accounting policies, changes in the procedures that this national agency uses and how it pays its bills, and how we've documented those things in the past. That all comes into play into getting to the point where we all agree, all right, this money is owed, this amount has been paid already, and this amount has not been paid. We are not yet to that point, unfortunately.
Okay, here's my point. It's our money. Now, if I were, let's say I was the Bank of America and you owed me money on your mortgage, and you were telling me these same things, I would say to you, Mr. Ward, with all due respect, excuses notwithstanding, we're going to put you in foreclosure because we're not going to listen to this. You get us the money or. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be that draconian. I'd like to get some clarity on this issue for the next meeting. So
I hear you.
It needs to be done 30 days. That's a reasonable time that we can find out where this. It's actually $1,977, of which about $1,154 is 90 days past due. If I'm reading this.
Oh, I see. The current,
That's what I'm reading. Now, there's not been put into collection.
right.
I mean, this is the government. I'm not talking about anything other than this one particular claim as to finding out if it's whichever department is ever responsible to get an answer within a reasonable time that this is the money that's owed you and you're going to be paid this money. And if it has been paid and it's in our county general fund, then we get the answer from the auditor, controller, Mr. Shad, as to where this money is, because it's our money and it affects us. Okay, so 30 days, is that reasonable?
I will do my best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? The packet last month had in it the statement of revenues and expenses that was spelled out year-to-date, what had been spent in each. It was a 6-month analysis.
Oh, my.
And which is very valuable because we can see, just where we are from where what the budget amount was set. Is that a very difficult statement to get each month? Is that done at the end of each month? It's just so handy to have to kind of tell, we're only 4 months in and we're up at 80% of what we should have budgeted, or, because we need to make changes prior to the end of the year. It's just good because it used the year-to-date actual and it had the year-to-date budgeted. So would that be something that we could maybe get?
I have that information. That's part of how I analyze what budget transfers are necessary and why they're necessary. I'd be happy to provide that. There is always a bit of a time lag in which I update that spreadsheet using numbers from the county auditor's intranet.
So it's 2
And
months
so
old.
sometimes those figures are quite a bit behind what ours are. As you may recall, in the past, we've discussed our interest in trying to go to a full accrual accounting system that then matches the cash accounting system run by the county. We're not quite at that point yet, but that would enable a more timely level of those reports.
It's a good one for us to have.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Okay, so we were going to, is it proper to adjourn the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority and reconvene as the Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Service Authority?
Yes.
Is that the proper way to do it?
Yes.
So, I have done that. We're now going to adjourn the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority and reconvene as the Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Service Authority. The only matter we have is on closed session. I don't think we anticipate anything to report out, just so you know, but you're welcome to stay. And I thank you all for being here, and we will see you for a significant meeting on
April 20th.
Wednesday, or excuse me, Tuesday, the 21st of April at 3:30. Thank you all for being here. Happy St. Patrick's Day.